Very warm welcome to everyone who's joined, prospective students interested in the MSc DAP program, and a very warm welcome to all the panelists. Today we're going to sort of run you through what MSc DAP is and broadly talk about the program, the key objectives of the program, talk you a little bit about what to expect from the program and what is it that you're taking away, particularly our engagement with partners and in overseas field trip. We're going to talk a little bit about the application process. MSc DAP, like all other programs in the DPU, is very focused on your educational and professional experiences. So we'll talk a little bit about what to expect in what to include in the application pack, particularly focus on the SOP, and also talk about the resources that are available within DPU and in local contexts to support your study at MSc DAP. We will also invite our alumnus who's here, Narjes, Ala, and Amina, who have been in the program in the past and to share their experience and open this panel up for any questions that you may have. All right, so I'm going to do this by sharing my screen and just... Okay, I believe that you can see the screen. All right. Okay. So yes, MSc DAP stands for Development Administration and Planning. And again, on behalf of the whole program team, which includes myself and Rukti, we are the program with the joint program leaders, and my colleague Wafa and Amina, who's also a staff at DAP currently. We welcome you to the session, and we really hope that you will find this useful and take away points for you to make your application at the DAP program. So before we start, if you can, Wafa will share a link with you on your chat boxes. If you can indicate from where you're joining us today by just dropping a pin on the map, that would be great. It'll give us a sense of, the interest that we're getting from the program across the world. So what is DAP? I'm sure those who have joined, you've had a little bit of chance to look through the program, but for those you've not, we offer a Master of Science degree in Development Administration and Planning. It's one of the largest program in the DPU. In the past, we have consistently been, at least in the last 2 years, been the largest program in the DPU. It is located within the Bartlett Faculty of the Built Environment. And broadly, we are interested in the various role of actors, not just the state, but also the market, civil society, and even communities. I'm going to invite Ruktim, my colleague, to talk a little bit about the objectives.
Hello, everyone. So a very warm welcome to DAP and to this webinar from wherever you are joining. It's morning for us, probably for some of you it's afternoon, or for some of you it's evening, depending on which part you are joining. So one of the most interesting part of this program is it's called as Development Administration and Planning. So there are three important thematic area which can be emerged from these three words, which development, administration, and planning. And each has a kind of different connotation, the way we interpret, the way we structured the program. So this is more of an interdisciplinary social science program. And it is little bit different from many other programs in this country in terms of development studies. So in this program, we try to help students to enable them with and equip them with skills to become a development manager. And our past alumni who are going to speak later, so they work in various kind of development organization. That can be NGO, that can be government organizations at regional level, at local level, as well as our past alumni have also worked in different multinational organizations like World Bank, UN, Habitat, UN Women, and many more. So one of the primary objective of this program is to kind of if you can, one of the primary objective of the program is to critically scrutinizing the meaning of development, because the way we look at development is not a kind of monolithic concept. Rather, it has multiple meaning based on the way we interpret. And we look at development more as a contested topic or a contested theme. And we try to critically examine development through various tools and methods, through practice-based studies. We also try to critically analyze that through various theoretical positions, which can be post-colonial studies, which can be post-development work. Also, we try to expose students to various theories of development, from classical to very contemporary time. And these kind of through enabling you to kind of understanding development from various vantage point, it also makes the program a very unique program, because it is not focused on any particular spatial scale. So like many other programs at DPU, some programs are focusing on health, some programs are focusing on urban issues, some program is focusing on design element of development, whereas we try to kind of merge all these different thematic area. And so in a way, it's much more multifaceted understanding of development. So students, when they choose their dissertation, that focuses on various regional scale, various spatial scale, also various thematic ideas, which are related to development. So that's also becomes quite unique for this program. Next, please.
Yeah, so as you can see, this is an example of different areas, different geographical regions that our students have joined the program from. So it's really, really interdisciplinary and really international, not just in DAP, but programs in DPU, but particularly DAP. We've had representations from, different parts of Asia, different parts of North and South Africa. We have had a good representation from the South America and, of course, the Southeast Asia and China. So it's really what we are trying to get your attention to is the fact that we are really, really encouraging of students from outside of the UK, because we feel that you do bring in a really rich experience of rich professional and education experience, which really helps the program develop further. And of course, we have home students, and we really encourage home students to also apply. Home students meaning students from the UK and also students from Europe. So some of the key program highlights, and Rukim has very nicely sort of kind of summarized for you what is the critical point through which we engage in the program. The key highlight is that it's a 12-month interdisciplinary program that provides analytical and methodological and also practical expertise needed to make a positive contribution to development. Really, what is the highlight of the program and what every student takes away from is the overseas practice engagement in a developing country, where you'll study both the practical concerns of development and the cultural, administrative, and institutional context in which decisions are made. And the image that you can see in the background is from one of our previous practice engagements that took place in Kampala in partnership with Makerere University. The program also sort of looks at takes a critical and analytical and comparative approach to planning for social action. These are some of the images from our previous sort of OPEs that we did in Kampala, where students engaged with development practitioners and actors. As you can see, last year we went to Cardiff. The year before that, we've had a long-standing relationship with Kampala, and this is also the OPE that took place virtually, and the idea is to sort of get your attention to the fact that we use various methodologies even when engaging through the OPE. So there is online, and then we actually go offline to the destinations. And Rukti will talk to you a little bit more about what is the next destination.
Yeah, so as Paroj has highlighted, like we had a long-standing relationship with our partner Urban Action Lab in Kampala, Uganda. And so the way we kind of design the program, so usually we go to one location for 5-6 years and to develop a very strong relationship. We do not like to have a kind of tourism opportunity to go to a country and then move to another country next year. So that's why we try to stay at least 5-6 years in one country and build a very strong partnership with our partners, because we think that that also helps students to have take advantage of this long-standing relationship with both the institutions kind of are forming. And because of COVID, we couldn't shift to a new location from Kampala last year, though our Ugandan partner came to UK. And we also had a kind of joint hybrid methodology for the OPE, where some of our partners from Uganda joined us online, and some of our partners were here with us in Cardiff. So it was kind of designed more with a hybrid methodology of digital ethnography as well as doing ethnography with our partners who were based in Cardiff with us. And this year we are going to a new location. So the new location is going to be Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we have a lovely relationship with a partner organization who is a social and political federation in Sao Paulo. So I can't say the Portuguese name now, but yeah, you will get all the details later on. So we are kind of started building this relationship, and the way we design our OPE, or the what we call as overseas practice engagement. I know everyone is kind of quite excited about the OPE activities. So what we do in the OPE is we travel to a location and we build a partnership with an academic institution in that location, which is in this case is going to be Federal Institute of Social and Political Science, Sao Paulo. And then they also host 7 to 8 NGOs in that context. And students kind of engage with, in groups, they engage with each of these NGOs and try to understand how a development practitioner's life can be sitting in an office of a development organization. Because we feel that that would help them to understand what life is, what a professional life can be as a development manager. And we also organize some guest lectures, some exposure visit of that city, and so on and so forth. So as some of the images shows that these are all from Sao Paulo. So we will be going to Sao Paulo for next 5 years, as this is the first starting year. And usually the field trip happens in early term 3, which is going to be April of the following year you join. So the way our terms are divided at DPU is the first term runs from end of September to December before the Christmas break. Term 2 starts from January, it goes till March, and then from end of April to June, we have the term 3. So term 3 is OPE field visit, and also you have to work on your dissertation. And term 1 and term 2 includes all your core modules, which is DEFP 15, which is critical ideas of development, DEFP 16, development management, DEFP 12, which is society, market, and private agency, and DEFP 10, which is practice module. So the practice module is the only module which runs across 3 terms. And Poroj will be able to discuss more about each of the module and try to give you an idea like what we cover in that module to have a better sense how the program is designed.
Yeah, so the basic structure of your study at DPU is going to be that you have, depending on the program that you're in, and in case of DAP, it's going to be 3 core modules. The one is critical ideas of development, conceptions and realities, which looks at key paradigmic ideas that have developed and defined varied understanding of development, both as a goal and as a process. Then there is DEFP 12, Society and Market, Private Agency for Development. It examines the role roles and approaches that employ market institutions to promote, or according to some critiques, impede specific versions of development. So you see that how we bring in different actors within the development field or the development sector in your core modules. And the DEFP 16 is contemporary approaches to development management. Many people sort of confuse it with a management course. Instead, what we really explore through this module, and it's a really, really interesting module in the way it explores a series of aspects relating to planned intervention in development. This could be, vehicles offered by project, different kinds of program, how policy works for intervention, and some of the varied ways of conceptualizing and designing and managing and measuring the effects of such interventions. And then Ruktim is the module leader for DEFP 10, which is the development in practice. He's already told you a little bit about, what is expected. So these are the core modules. And apart from that, you are also required to take any 2 optional modules. So while you can take optional modules from within the DPU, you can also take optional modules from outside of the DPU, and this is really an understanding that you have to have between programs that is outside of the DPU. And interestingly, it can be done outside of the DPU within UCL as well as outside of UCL. So we've also had students take optional modules from other universities, which really makes a unique aspect of the program, which also means that you can be in UCL or you can be in the DPU, but also sort of interact and engage with other programs in lines with your interest. A really, really important part of the MSc is going to be the dissertation and development planning, which gives you a chance to think carefully about the practical implications of interventions. And through this, you will be exposed to a number of tools and methods applied in contemporary development planning. So I'm certain that many of you who are joining today would have already done some sort of a research project or some sort of a research work. So the DEFP 17 is similar in the way you produce written output, a dissertation. But what is really important is that it really gives you a chance. This is your chance to really think through further in areas that you want to either, go to, take your career path towards, to sort of broaden your understanding in areas which you've been thinking about and have been interested in. Another very important, one thing we offer from the DPU is a fellowship program, which means that various staff within the DPU offer a fellowship, which is usually an understanding or an opportunity to interact or engage with another organization. So fellowship is a really nice way to sort of engage or participate in the dissertation. So I know this is a lot of information coming your way, and you may not be able to process all of it, which is absolutely fine. You can always write to the program team, and the email addresses are there in your in the program page, to know more about know more about the structure of the program. To give you a little idea of we talked to you about the program, what to expect of the program, the structure of the program. I'm going to invite Raktim to talk about the expertise that the DAP staff bring with them in the program.
Thank you, Paroj. So the program, which is Development Administration and Planning, which is part of a larger ecosystem, which we have at DPU, also at UCL. And that ecosystem not only involves teaching or learning and delivering lectures for students, but also has a very strong research environment. And that research environment is not only broad because of the thematic interest, but also geographically. So which probably is kind of highlighted in the pictures, which are coming from various parts of the world. And at DAP, as well as at DPU, we have a kind of quite a strong research environment. And why we are highlighting the importance of the research environment for 2 reasons. Firstly, that also expose students to various ideas and various kind of understanding of development, because the way we kind of look at development is very contextual. So there is no universal theory that can be applicable to the world. And so bringing very different contexts and learning from different contexts through the kind of research we do also helps us to shape the understanding of development in a more nuanced way. And the second thing, which is also quite important, that the kind of content what we teach or deliver lecture on also quite dependent on what we are doing in a real life project. So many of our teaching actually includes many of our case studies from the research work what we all are doing as DPU staff or an academic. So the picture summarizes pictures from Mumbai, pictures from Delhi, which are two projects which me as well as Poroj is involved differently. We also have some pictures from Somaliland. So Michael, the director of DPU, is involved in that project. Also, Amina has a very strong research interest and have a long-standing relationship with many Somaliland partners there. So Amina can speak a little bit about her own research. We also have a team which is working quite prominently in various parts of Africa, South America, and now also one of our OPE location is going to be South America, Brazil. So you can understand that we cover almost all parts of the world. I think all continents except Australia and Oceania. So except that we have quite a wide range of presence and footprint in terms of our research across various geographies of the world.
Yes, absolutely. And what is really important to also note the fact that we really sort of, we preach what we practice, in the sense that the various expertise that the DAP staff brings with them to the program also impacts directly in some of the real level policy changes, real kinds of social action. So it's really important, and what we do dedicatedly is also link that our engagement with teaching and what we have to offer. There is a question on scholarships in the chat, so I'm coming to that when I talk a little bit more about what to expect in the program, how to make the application. As you would have understood by now, that it is suitable for graduates and professionals from a variety of disciplines. And each discipline has its unique contribution towards the program. You have to have a broad and or specific understanding and interest in the development, of course, to apply for the program. You're interested in developing a critical understanding of differing theoretical and empirical approaches to policy, planning, and administration. So we invite applications from those interested in exploring the divergent frameworks and tools that are used to formulate responses to problems of widening economic and social inequality and environmental degradation. It requires an upper-class UK bachelor's degree or an overseas equivalent degree, but exceptions can also be made in cases of relevant professional experience. Many of our students who join the program come with a very rich professional experience, which again enriches the program further. What we really see is a strong personal statement that demonstrates relevance of one's background in relation to the program, in alignment with the program, and interest in topics of the program. So what is really important to sometimes, I know it can be really hard to write a personal statement, but some things that we really look at is that if you have had any kind of experience in the development sector, in the governance sector, or in the social sector, even if it's not very long, do write about it, do mention your work experience. So that's something that we really value. Write about your backgrounds, your educational background. Sometimes you may see that your educational backgrounds are not directly in alignment with what the program looks at, which is fine. And we encourage, like we said, that diverse educational backgrounds. But it's important that in your statement, in your personal statement, you are able to demonstrate how your interests align with the, the key objectives or the key, the broad interests, broad topics of the program. Sometimes there is a, so I would say really spend some time reading through the personal statement, reading through the website, reading through what the program offers, and really think through how some of the keywords might match your experience of what you have done before, what you're interested in doing. Sometimes it's also, some people join the program to sort of take up a career in the development sector, which means that even if you don't have a background, it's okay. We don't discourage applicants. We in fact encourage applicants who demonstrate how they want to use that as a in their career trajectories. But you need to be very articulate about that in the personal statement. Second is good references. We require 2 references. It could be from your academic mentors or your academic teachers that you have studied with, but also people who you've worked with. But very important to notice that they should be able to demonstrate in your in their reference letters how you are fit for the program. So not just in terms of not just academically fit. It's not enough to say that you have been a good student, but if they can also say, give 1 or 2 examples of maybe the subjects that you have taken which are relevant for the program, 1 or 2 examples of instances of where they feel that you are sort of relevant to the broad development sector. I know you don't need to be very specific, but sometimes we get a lot of references which are very generic. And we are kind of discouraged to look at those applications which are very generic references. So please do ask your references to provide recommendations which are fit with your profile. So sometimes that might involve reminding them of what you're capable of or what you have done with them in the past. So that's something that we really encourage you to do. There is an English language requirement, a minimum English language requirement. Most people take IELTS, but others also take other English language exams. So I do encourage you to look at the English language requirement page at UCL. So if you just type English language requirements page, you will be able to see that. This webinar is being recorded. So if there's any information that you need to go back to, you can always come back to our website and see this again. So don't worry if you're missing, if you feel like there's a lot of information and you can't process all of it, you can always come back to it or write back to us in case of any confusion or clarifications. Now, somebody asked about scholarships. Yes, there are lots of scholarships available. The best way to see is if you go to UCL Scholarships Finder. That's the search you need to do on Google. That's it. And then it takes you to a page where you have a host of school-wise, faculty-wise, examples of what are the scholarships that are available. The most important scholarships relevant to the Bartlett, to the program, is the Bartlett Promise Master Scholarship and the Bartlett Promise Sub-Saharan Africa for Master Scholarship. So so these are, I encourage you to take a look at these scholarship programs. They cover usually the student fees, living costs for the duration of the study. And I would also encourage you to look at scholarships that are available locally. So one example is the Jharkhand Marang Gomke Jaipal Singh Munda Overseas Scholarship, which is given out to indigenous scholars in the state of Jharkhand in India. This is just an example of a local scholarship. So what I'm getting you to sort of really do a search on is what scholarships are available or what financial support is available within your local contexts. And finally, I would invite our alumnus who's here, Amina, Ala, and Nargis, to talk about their experience in DAP. And the image in the slide is really to give you a picture of the different kinds of career paths that our students have gone on to take. So,
Paroj, can I
yes.
just quickly, before moving on to the alumni, there is a question about recommendation letter, if you can quickly answer that as well.
Yes, sure. Can you read out to me the question?
Yeah, do you have a specific format for the recommendation letter?
There is usually a format, UCL-based format, where they ask the referees to rate based on different criteria, whether they have been, if it's your teacher, whether you've been the top 5%, or how they would rate you in your academic capabilities. So that's there. That's a UCL format. In addition to this, your referees can also submit a reference letter where they can talk a little bit more about what has not been captured in the format. One advice is that definitely make sure that your referees have their it's done in an institutional letterhead, and that your referees are able to demonstrate their current connections with their current affiliations with their organization. So institutional letterhead, an email address, usually a professional email address or institutional email address that we can get back to in case we have further questions. So yes, does it answer your question? I mean, there will be a session after this, after our alumni have spoken, to answer any further clarifications. But for now, if I can just invite them to speak.
Yeah, and just one small thing to highlight, which is this is a full-time course of 12 months, but we also have a provision of a part-time degree that many of our previous students have kind of experience. So so some of you may be working somewhere, so it can be a part-time degree as well. So we have that option, though not a very high percentage of our students are part-time students, but yes, in the past, there have been students who also pursued the degree in the part-time mode.
So if I could invite Narjis.
Hi, Paruch. Thanks.
Okay.
And thanks to Rec Team and Wafa for explanation. If I may say a few words about me and about my motivation about joining the DAP course, I would say that I've been working in development sector for a few years, and I had a background in built environment, and I wanted to deepen my knowledge in the field of development planning. So I joined the DAP program to understand the framework behind my job and behind my work. And in this regard, I guess the program was very useful for me. I would say that this is a very practical curriculum in a sense that it allows me to revisit and rethink the concept, the terms, and the frameworks that I've been working with in the development sector in a new light and in a more critical way. And now I'm currently working with one of those UN agencies in my home country, and sometimes I even try to go back to the definition of development management, development planning, and all those things that I learned during the course. And I guess the other point that was very interesting for me is the opportunity to interact with so many practitioners and scholars during the course. And I guess, if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the modules that we had the guest speakers from different backgrounds, from economy, from environment sector, from social science scholars, that I had the opportunity to ask questions and to engage with those people. So it was very helpful for me to understand the framework behind my work, as I mentioned before. And last but not the least was very responsiveness of the DAP program, tutors and helpfulness during the course. Yeah, that's it. Over to you.
And not just what is your home country, if you can all say when you did your program in DAP.
Yeah, I'm from Iran, and I'm currently working with United Nations in Iran.
Ala?
Maybe we can go to Ala. Yeah.
Hi Paroj, hi Raktim, hi everyone. It's so nice to connect with Narjas because also we were in the same years that we studied at DAB. So I'm very pleased to be here and to share my experience about DAB program. So my name is Ala Assani. I'm Syrian. I've been working with INGOs around 10 years in the Syrian context and in MENA region, Middle East and North Africa, in program management, development, gender, and also feminism, livelihoods, economic stabilization. So this part of the focus. So I honestly have to choose this program because, as I said, like I had long practical experience, but I lacked the theoretical knowledge and concepts and critical thinking and, you know, this skills. So I found that I've asked previous scholars. I read the program, and through through the course, I had the chance to enrich my knowledge and develop my skills. That was highly appreciated by my work colleagues and even the products and the research that I was working on in my jobs. So I found it really useful. I mean, what we have learned from approaches in terms of, you know, participatory, bottom-up, inclusivity, intersectional approaches as well. So that was really appreciated. So in addition that this course, it gives, as you said, like Raknim, and this is exactly what I choose, that it doesn't focus on a specific theme, but it's more merging different aspects that you can, you know, get benefit from as a program manager, in terms of development, urban planning, housing, gender. So these are the themes that I needed in my job, and this is why I have chosen this course in specific, and specifically as well the practical engagement where we did the research in Uganda. I really wanted, you know, to do a research, you know, learn the methods and, you know, the how to do that, you know, structurally, and having worked with classmates, you know, even it was virtually, but was really useful in terms of the interactions and the interviews, and, you know, how really to implement research on the ground and what to consider, what to not, you know, these aspects of positionality and of, you know, taking the consent and the analysis, even the data that we collected. So that all helped, you know, for me, like to become as a researcher, and where I work now as gender and housing, lands, or property rights researcher with GIZ, where I I'm working on developing a strategic paper to address women housing, lands, or property rights challenges in the Syrian context, where I have also developed the methodology and methods, researches, and tools, you know, how in order to conduct that and to come up with recommendation. That could lead the intervention as development planner, you know, and can advocate for that. So also other positive experiences that, you know, this course, it allows us, I think, similar to other departments or programs that allow us to optional modules. And this, I found it also very useful to connect with other colleagues and from different programs, where it really, you know, it helped me a lot also to expand my network, to know how other programs, you know, to intersect between the different programs as well. I also found it really amazing that the tutors and professors have the diverse expertise and background and context. So usually I expected when I study in the most reputable university, it would be all British or all English, where we had, you know, different nationalities at the end bring different contexts and bring, you know, the lived experiences on the ground. And this is actually what I found it also useful for me as coming from underrepresented country. And overall, I found it it helped me a lot also, you know, it's not because only prestigious university and like course as program manager, but it's also, you know, in terms of the content, as I said, it's built on, it had merged, you know, the practical and the theoretical experience and have really impacted the quality of the work that I'm doing. So currently I'm working as a MENA manager for resourcing the feminist movement with WILF, Women International League for Peace and Freedom. And as I said, I'm working also with GIZ, which is German development agency on, as an expert and researcher on housing, lands, property rights, which is the topic of my dissertation. That kindly Paroj was my supervisor. So that was really useful getting her feedback and thoughts that, that's why where I am now. So
Thank you, Ala. I think I can't remember. So whether Narjis or Ala, did you have any scholarship
I am a Chevening alumni, so
Yeah, so if you can highlight a little bit regarding the Chevening application, so that can be helpful for some of the joinees.
yeah. Nargis also Chevening. Nargis, would you like me or you, or how do you prefer?
Oh, Nargis is also a Chevening scholar.
Yeah,
Yeah,
both of
Oh,
us.
right.
I'm
Yeah.
happy to take this
Just
question.
give a little bit kind of overview, like what can make a strong Chevening applicant?
Okay, of course. I guess for both the application for Chevening and for DPU, it means for application for the DAP program. I guess the very important component of the application is indeed the cover letter or a statement of purpose, something that you should put together out of what you have done and what you would like to do in alignment with the Chevening remit, or for instance, the DAP strategy or DPU goals and objectives. And I guess, yeah, the most important thing is that, for instance, for Chevening, there are certain objectives and strategies that Chevening is looking forward to. And those objectives, going through those objectives, and the notion, the very notion of Chevening as a scholarship for future development leader, for instance, would help you to put your cover note and application together. And you should try to somehow link your experiences, skills, expertise to those goals and objectives at some point. And I guess this is something I can say about the application. And of course, the time frame of application is very much important in your success. You should consider that you need at least, for instance, 1 year to work on your application, to submit the application, and to take it into account that you should apply for the course at the same time. So these are the things I can say about. Ala, if you want to, yes.
Yeah. So usually, so just maybe for the one who do not know what does Chevening scholarship means. So it's a full funded scholarship by the UK FCDO, by the Foreign Commonwealth Development Office in the UK, and it's applicable on I think 400 countries, or it's every year they select around 1,000 or 2,000 applicants from different part of the world. And so the application usually opens in August and closed in November, like just a month ago. It's closed now. So when in the application, you have to focus on 4 essays, one on leadership, showing the leadership skills that you have, as what what inspires you as a leader, what type of leadership positions that you have taken, networking skills, how you use them, and then future plans, and also the universities in the UK. Where in the universities in the UK, you need to know exactly why you have chosen UCL, and what exactly, in terms of, the location or the content or the reputation, or etc. So you have to also to clarify that in the application, and then have clear, a plan between your previous experience and the future, and also 5 years plan for your future career. And then after, you don't need to provide unconditional offer at this stage. You only need to submit the application. Then you have around 10 months, to have unconditional offer from UCL and from others if you want to apply, where you also you have to meet the English requirement, which is the same of the university, and also resources or references, and then the start of the course of 2 months. So it's just 2 years experience at least. So you should have 2 years experience in order to be eligible to apply for this, and it doesn't restrict with any age. So you can, even if you are 40, you can still apply for it. And it's somehow competitive, depends on the context. And also, as Nargis said, it's also in line with, the UK FCDO intervention in the country that you are coming from. So in my country, it's mostly about development, public health, and politics. While, for example, in Iraq, it's mostly about business and entrepreneurship or something like that. So you would need to know what is the strategy of the intervention of the UK in your country, so you can also link that, if possible, within your career. And yeah. So I hope this was useful. And also I'm happy to support in this. If anyone like would need me to review essays or application, I'm happy. Yeah, feel free.
Thank you. Thank you, Ala. That's really wonderful to get that information for prospective students. Now, last but not the least, Amina, who was an alumni and also now a member of staff.
Yes,
So,
thank you, Raktim and Parosh and Vafa, and to the two alumni as well. Yeah, I mean, I did DAP 10 years ago now in 2012, and previous to that, I had done a bachelor's degree in global studies and development economics in Sweden, and I actually had a friend who did DAP, and she was talking so well about the program and all of the things that the two alumni had said as well about kind of the practical aspects of development. And I kind of wanted to further the development economics studies degree that I had in a more practical manner, but also more theory-based as far as critical development thinking goes. So yeah, I applied and I had a great time, so much so that I've stuck around for the past 10 years. And I would actually say that that program allowed me to gain the tools I needed to do my PhD program, because I then ventured on and did a PhD in development planning. But the tools that I gained from DAP as far as methodologies goes, project planning, critically engaging with the development discourse, much so prepared me for my PhD journey in development planning, I would say. And now I work as a researcher and as a teacher within the DAP program. So it's very full circle, if you will. And yeah, I'm just happy to be part of such a great program with great researchers. Both Parosh, Raktim, and even Vafa as well are researchers as well. So they're not just, teachers. They very much engage with the discourse that they teach, and they contribute quite a lot to that discourse as well. So it's very, it's great to be part of that team.
thanks a lot, Amina. And it also gives you an opportunity to look at how our alumni work on various sectors. So it's not necessarily that everyone end up in academia after completion of the degree, which Amina has, and some of us also have already done that. But also we have people like Ala or Narjes who are working in the ground, who are professionals, who are working with various kind of development organizations. So that actually gives you an idea that how varied and how diverse our alumni are. This is just a very small example of the kind of wonderful and diverse work many of our alumni are doing. But having said that, all this kind of information can be overwhelming. So some fun facts. So London is the most unique and the most cosmopolitan city in the world, I would say, my personal biasness. I also came to this country as a migrant, and now I made London as my home. So there are lots of interesting, fun things to do in London, and the creative industry in the world actually runs from London, I would say that in a way. So there are lots of museums, art galleries, lots of music venues, lots of wonderful pubs, and also because of the colonial history and all of that, I would say that you can find a grocery store and a restaurant of any country in the world in London. There is not even a single country which is not represented in the culinary environment of London. So that's very important, because I'm sure if you plan to join the program and get selected, so probably you are going to live in London. So it's good to know those kind of things. It can be a bit gloomy, UK weather. It rains most of the time in the year, but also UCL provides a various avenues so that you can engage with various student bodies. We have a very strong and vibrant student union, so feel free to join the student union. There are also a lot of things which are quite at discounted rate offers within the UCL student union. One can be kickboxing, yoga, and a lot of things which are offered at a very discounted rate. So just to cheer you up, within that gloomy environment, there are also other kind of things which you can do for fun. Having said that, I would also like to highlight, like in the any master's program in the UK context is quite stressful because it's 1-year program. So, and you have to do with a lot of things, studies. So there are not much fun time, but I'm not saying it's absolutely negligible. So people do a lot of activities. Every year we also, and thank you, Ala. Yes, there is also a lot of mental health support, which we have at UCL, as well as we also have a mental health champion within the department, which is Rita. So probably you can look at our website and see. We also organize some career events every year, both at DPU level, also at DAP level, bringing our alumni, which also gives you an idea like how our alumni are working in various parts of the world. So yeah, so probably we spoke too much. Maybe this is a time when you can ask any question. If you need any clarification, feel free to raise your hand or just type it in the chat. I can see
guys, we are getting a few questions. So
Okay.
should we start with the first one? What do you think is the main difference between this program and others similar in the UK?
That's a very good question and a complex question, I would say. So the way the program is designed is a little bit unique, as Ala and Narjis was also highlighting a little bit. It has a very strong component of practice. So it's not only the theoretical understanding of development, rather how development is practiced. And that's why the module name is Development in Practice. And it is also, which I would like to reiterate that fact, many of the development studies program in this country are heavily focused on economics, which this program is not. This program brings a lot of different kind of disciplines. So I'm a geographer by training. I'm also an urban planner by training, and I did my PhD in development studies. So I myself carry 3 kind of disciplines with me. Poroj is a sociologist who has shifted to geography and development later on. Vafa trained as an architect, then he did planning. So at least 3 of our staff, and also Amina was explaining she has a background in global studies and then she did DAP. So that shows the kind of diverse disciplinary background what we bring. And we also have a member of staff like Julio, who has a background in engineering. So that, like this huge disciplinary background not only brings various contexts, which we were explaining, but also encountering and challenging development from various vantage points. So that's very important. So it's not only economics. Yes, one of the module is probably there are certain economic theories because they are classical theories. They are also important to understand development because that was also the origin of development studies as a discipline from economics. So yes, there are components of economics, but some of the other things what we teach about reflexivity, positionality, research methods, which are not all about economics. And I would also like to highlight that in the practice module, particularly, we focus more on qualitative methods and ethnography, which involves various forms of ethnography also, like Ala and Narjis did a digital ethnographic experience during the practice engagement because they joined just in 2020 when there was a COVID outbreak, so we couldn't travel. So, but we brought Uganda at our home in our desktop through Zoom and other means of digital communication. So that's also kind of an unique experience, I would say, to kind of encounter with different kind of methodologies. So that is one of the most unique part of the program. And the second thing which I would like to highlight is the program is also not looking at any particular spatial scale. So it's up to you, the kind of pathway you select for yourself. You are free to select your pathway. And the pathway can be kind of represented through the kind of dissertation you are doing. So the dissertation, some of our students do in a very regional scale, broader scale, country-specific scale. If I can kind of give you an example, last year, so one of my students actually looked at innovation sector in Kazakhstan. So that's at a country level, looking at a country level. So another student of mine looked at a very specific thing to look at the sanitation framework of an NGO at a very particular city with a very specific group of people, which is marginalized women who are living in squatter settlement. So that actually shows you from the micro scale to the macro scale, that is the breadth of the dissertation students choose. And so that also shows the uniqueness of the program, which kind of continuously oscillate between various scales, various spatial scales at micro, macro, and also urban, regional, as well as rural. So I think these are the kind of unique part of the program.
I would also like to add to that. I think this also answers Deepal's questions about how do students typically choose specializations within development, and how does DAP or DPU support students to certain focuses. So dissertation is definitely one, and the other I would say is optional modules. So your optional modules are there for you to choose specializations which either support your modules, the core modules in DAP, or in areas where you've been interested in, or in areas where you want to specialize. And like we said, one of the uniqueness of the program at the DPU is the fact that you can choose optional modules beyond DPU. And in certain circumstances, optional modules are chosen even in other universities. But this is a negotiation, or this is a conversation that you have to have with the departments, and it's possible. Yeah, optional modules are definitely another areas through which you can choose your specialization along with the dissertation. And we would say do pay specific and a lot of attention to the dissertations at DAP. Yes. The other question was on student intake. So this is varied over the years. We have a cap of 35 students, but 35 students per year at the DAP program. But this year we have had 42 students, which means that we have got more applications which are relevant to the program. And so it really varies. It depends on the applications and the number of applications we think are suitable for the program. But yes, if they're 35, but it always goes above 35 every year.
But also, having said that, it is a very, very competitive program. It is the largest, but also very competitive program. So if I look at from 2020 to 2022, we received almost 400 applications, and we select only 30 to 35 or at max 40. So that hardly the acceptance rate, I would say almost 10% or a little bit less than that. So just keep in mind that it's a very, very competitive program, so which many of the other DPU programs are, because it's a Russell Group university, and we attract a lot of attention from various parts of the world. So the application numbers are quite high, and we select only the best who fits well with the program and their career objective.
The next question is from Laura, who's asking that are the compulsory modules also open to other degrees at Bartlett, or are they only available for this program? So the way it works is that you will have to do the compulsory modules in your program in DAP, the core modules, that's compulsory. Now, any other module that you choose is an optional module, which could be a mandatory or compulsory or core module in another program. And it depends on the program's cap. So sometimes if programs are oversubscribed, some programs are really, really popular, even outside of the DPU. If they are oversubscribed, that program may be close to you. So a lot of it depends on the number of students in intake in that program, that particular year. The promptness with which you apply, sometimes it's on a first come, first served basis. So to answer your question, yes, it's you can opt for a core module from another program as long as it's being offered on the condition that it's not oversubscribed and others have already not sent in their preferences. Thanks, Narjis. No worries. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your really, really valuable inputs. Do we have any other questions? Any other questions? Like we said, feel free to ask your questions now or later. You can email us. You can find the information on MSc DAP. If you just type MSc DAP UCL or UCL Development Planning and Administration, it will take you to the program page, which will give you all the contact details of the program leaders or the program team with who you can contact for the questions. We will also upload this recording. This has been recorded, the webinar, on our program page. So if you can always visit back to when you're making your application to sort of revisit some of the key points and suggestions that our alumnus and we have been sharing with you.
Thank you.
Yes, Deepal. Yes, look forward to seeing you next year.
Thank you. So we will, if there is no further question, we will close this session for now. And feel free to drop a line if you need any further information about the program, or you're just curious about the program to know more in detail. So thank you all for joining us. I hope you all have a lovely day. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.